Welcome to the Rundown, everybody. I'm your host, Dr. Sam Zehnder, physical therapist and fitness expert slash enthusiast. If you're tuning in from previous weeks, specifically last week, you can see I'm sitting a little bit better here, actually facing the box because my knee from my previous injury is feeling a little bit better, able to bend it more, which is exciting. But that's beside the point. Today we're talking plyometrics, jumping, moving quickly. And this is an interesting topic that I love to talk about, especially on a one-on-one level with clients in the clinic, because most of the time, culturally, we think of jumping as more of an athletic thing, more of a sports specific maneuver, something that only young people have to do, or only people who want to win some athletic competition would have to do. Outside of that, it's not really relevant, and the gym is not for that. It's not really a priority in our lives, but um, as both a PT and just a general, health enthusiast, I would encourage the exact opposite mindset, and we'll go into the specific reasons why. But it's definitely one of those things that essentially all people should include to some degree. It's not going to look quite the same for everybody, just like not everybody's strength routine is exactly the same, or their cardiovascular routine, or maybe you have a sort of stretch routine that you enjoy doing, other people don't. It can definitely be personalized, but answering the question directly, do I need plyometrics or do I need to train my body to move quickly? The answer absolutely would be yes, you do need to do that for several large reasons that are relevant to all people, right? None of us are slowing down the biological clock. Well, maybe slowing down, you could say, but nobody's stopping it for sure. It's going to happen to all of us where we're going to get to a point where our bodies are changing and declining in performance. That's not something that we can prevent or stop, but we can absolutely slow the decline of that, or we can maximize the quality of our later years or our early years too. I mean, there's quite a few people, my age, I'm 30, maybe even younger, or, about my age, that don't do any plyometric activity because, again, they're not in sports. They've maybe graduated from high school. Now they're in a phase where they feel like, oh, it's not really relevant. And so they just kind of put it off to the wayside. But again, I would encourage everybody to do some form of it, just to reduce the decline that happens to all of us, right? So, a couple key reasons, again, that I think everybody should really engage in this. And the first one is probably the most tangible, especially as a physical therapist, but it might not feel that way to all of us, especially if you are in the first half of your life, and that being the idea of falls prevention. So, I'm 30. Many people around my age are not going to have many concerns with, balance. Even, excuse me, 50s, 60s, you might feel like, oh, my balance is actually pretty good. But um, the, pardon me, get that frog out of the throat. Um, Many people feel like, oh, falls are for, 90-year-olds, or it happens, only to a select group of people that maybe have some like neurological concerns, maybe after they had a stroke or somebody with Parkinson's. But outside of that, people don't fall, or it's not so much of an issue for the country. And actually, it's statistically one of the most significant burdens on our healthcare system, because what happens after a fall is not just the incident. We're not just trying to make sure that you actually get back up or get to the hospital, but a fall can create tons of harmful sequelae, such as broken hips, broken ribs, longer hospital stays. Many of those unfortunately can lead into other things, whether it's pneumonia or just generalized deconditioning, and now we have extensive rehab needs, or other specialists, medical specialists that have to come in to try to help this person get back to life. And unfortunately, most unfortunately, and this might be surprising, many people will actually pass away from falls or from the complications as a result of their fall. And so, the more we can prevent this from happening, the more that really the whole system, or whole society benefits. But of course, the individual being first, right? So, one of the reasons that most people fall, one of the primary reasons that most people go through falls, or they have recurrent falls or near falls where, maybe you don't go down to the ground per se, but, you trip or you have to catch yourself on wall or furniture, that sort of thing, is that physiologically their body has not been trained to, or is not conditioned to move quickly. So, for example, let's say you're walking through your home or some environment and foot gets caught on the rug or surface underneath you. In a healthy individual, in a fit, let's say, individual who's able to adjust to the situation, the leg is able to quickly come forward. They're able to plant themselves and contract their muscles quickly to stabilize and prevent a fall. And the lack of that is really one of the primary drivers of many falls, where the individual may be able to stand and walk decently, but as soon as there's some perturbation from that normal and the foot hits the ground or foot hits the carpet in a funny way, they're not able to quickly move and quickly stabilize, contract their muscles to maintain their balance, and that leads to the fall. And so, how do we train that in physical therapy? And that comes, or just fitness in general, that comes in a lot of different forms. It's not to say that every patient I work with is always doing, max velocity vertical jumps or box jumps or, power cleans or things like that. I think that's great. I mean, a society that would be okay with that and accepts that idea for, our elderly population, or, even 50 years old and older. And again, by my standards, 50 is not old. Let me just be very clear. 50 is still very young. 60, even 70, I think is young, especially with modern healthcare abilities now. But a society that would accept that and actually glorify the idea that, yeah, we're going to train almost as if we're athletes, but just for normal life, I think is amazing, because really we'd all be better off. And specifically, the people that are doing that would be better off. So having the ability to move quickly and contract your muscles, even though the example I just gave of tripping on a carpet isn't necessarily jumping, the function of moving your leg quickly enough and adjusting your body quickly enough and planting your foot, stabilizing, turning your muscles on rapidly versus just a nice slow controlled movement. That's essentially what a plyometric is, by and large. And I'm not trying to start some beef with the exercise physiologists or the muscle physiologists or researchers, because yes, I understand there's more technicality to what makes a plyometric, but in a practical sense, in a clinic or gym, that essentially is what we're training our body to do. So again, for each person, it's going to look differently. If somebody can do box jumps and you're at that level and it's there's no pain involved and you feel confident with it, I think that's a fantastic option. Maybe it's not a box, maybe you use hurdles, maybe you do just do some vertical jumps or tuck jumps in space. You can obviously train laterally as well, but for a lot of people, that might not be something that you have been doing for a while, and so that might be an inappropriate jump, no pun intended, to get into right to your training. And so we can alter it. Instead of doing squats in a slow, controlled manner, maybe we have you do that in a rapid manner, where I'll actually time clients and say, all right, I want you to get as many reps as you can in 20 seconds or 30 seconds, right? And so now we're adding the intention of moving quickly, not for the sake of rushing through reps and having low quality. Like, we still want to get through a full range of motion and still want it to be challenging. But if we add this intention of, okay, moving quickly, moving rapidly, now we change your nervous system and we create a drive in your nervous system and in your muscles to say, all right, I need to not just move, but move fast. And that's going to then translate into being able to prevent falls and all the other pieces that we just talked about. So again, many people might not feel like that's relevant, or you might not feel like it's not something I really encounter much throughout the day. And hopefully it's not. Hopefully your balance is fantastic, but balance is one of those things that will absolutely, by and large, decrease or worsen over time. For some people, unfortunately, it happens to a greater degree than others. It's not something that we see tends to increase as we get older, unless your balance was so poor and you've never done really any physical functioning. Then at that point we can maybe rehab some of it back. But in general, just like muscle, just like bone mass, the trend overall is that it's going to decline. But we have the option to say, to be in a little bit of control of how much that declines or how rapidly that declines. For something as simple but as profound as preventing falls. Outside of that, though, even if you're not concerned necessarily about falling, or even if we're just maybe generalizing this to more people outside of those with balance concerns, think about how much more useful you are in your own life and the quality of your life, how much that would improve if you're comfortable moving quickly, right? If it doesn't take an hour for you to get ready in the morning because as life goes on, maybe you've been slowing things down and you haven't been training your body to move quickly. But through training, if you can speed that up, like, you can be so much more productive. I'm not suggesting that you jump up the stairs. Instead, like, of course, you would still just be a normal human and probably walk up the stairs, right? But if you had to get up somewhere quickly, which, again, who doesn't have that need occasionally, it gives you options, is the point, right? If you can do something in less time, you're going to get more done. You're going to be able to enjoy your life where it doesn't, getting around the community or getting around your house, doesn't take significantly longer each year of your life because your training is allowing you to kind of get through that part faster, and you can actually enjoy life, because nobody wants to work their whole life and then retire just to feel physically exhausted and not really be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor, right? You want to actually have decent health so that when you do get to that retirement age, ideally, that you can really enjoy all the work that you put in, and move around the community, or move around the home setup that you've built, or travel effectively, or at least just get up and down from the couch, right? I mean, nobody wants every part of or the worst part of their life, the hardest part of their day, to be getting out of bed or getting back into bed, right? You want to make sure that the simple things don't become more complicated because you hadn't been training. And it sounds maybe like an overstatement, but that idea of training quickly and training plyometrics really does have a significant impact on those functions. Because, again, specifically in our culture, we move past that once most of us get out of high school. High school athletics are obviously where most people are going to get some exposure to that, or maybe middle school, you could say. And then once we get out of organized sports, we feel like, not really much point to have to move quickly ever, or to do any sort of power training or plyometric training. That's for athletes, not for me. And the decline on this can start very, very early, 40s, 50s for many people. So it starts a lot sooner than you might think. And there's a lot more control that you have over the situation than you might think as well. And so, again, if you want to just maximize the quality of your life long term, regardless of preventing falls, albeit that's a very important reason, I would argue, you don't want to just have the happiest and most rewarding life that you can, then I would encourage you to include some degree of these plyometric concepts or rapid power kind of concepts in your training. The last one kind of tails off or dovetails from point one, and this being the decreasing healthcare burden. So we've talked about it more on a societal level, right? If we are able to decrease falls, we can decrease the cost of care for a system and therefore a community, and that trickles, ideally into having more money being in each of our pockets, of course. But let's just focus on an individual level, right? How much more do you think you could save, or how much, maybe better way to phrase it, how much less do you think you could spend on your own healthcare if you are able to, especially as life goes on, if you're able to move comfortably and move, smoothly, let's say, not even rapidly per se. I'm not saying that everybody has to be sprinting around like maniacs constantly just because you're training plyometrics doesn't turn you into the Tasmanian devil. But if it does allow you to move more freely, move more smoothly, it's going to maximize your health in other ways as well, keeping your nervous system sharpened. It's going to be good for maintaining gray and white matter in your brain, which obviously leads to really every other system in our body. To some degree, maybe a brief bit of cardiorespiratory training, although that's not going to be the primary purpose of plyometrics at all. But point is, it's going to have a profound impact on your whole system in general. Osteoporosis actually is going to be a primary uh, specific pathology that's going to benefit from this too. And again, culturally, we probably don't think of that and as being beneficial or relevant. And this may come across as sexist, but it's also just the truth that women may feel probably more typically that they don't need to jump or that maybe it's not something they want to do. And it's not that they shouldn't do it. I think that if any group needs to do it or can do it and should benefit from it, women, particularly over the age of 50, should be doing some form of plyometric training because of the increased risk of bone mineral density loss. Plyometric training is going to create that impact that is needed to stimulate bone growth because our bodies are highly adaptive and bones especially need a higher degree of loading, a higher rate of loading. Plyometrics fits that perfectly, right? Where you have that impact, stimulates the bones to say, hey, we got to thicken up and get a little bit stronger. And that's one group in particular that probably doesn't do enough of plyometric or what doesn't engage in jumping type activities enough that will benefit the most from it. Again, I think everybody is going to benefit to some degree, but there's certain groups that especially I would recommend jumping. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be somebody who participates in triathlons all the time or loves, marathon running or CrossFit or anything crazy. You just have to be somebody who cares about your health and wants the most out of your life and wants the highest quality of life for yourself and for your family, right? You want to be able to be enjoying the life that you set up for yourself as each decade goes on versus the last half of your life being filled with, disease and pain and injuries that were largely preventable. And again, many times they can't be. Things happen, and that's the unfortunate reality of life. But why would we not try to take control of what we can, focus on improving, and really maximize the outcome there? So again, you're going to save not just society cost of healthcare, but yourself as well. Think about if you can improve your overall health in general, especially in the second half of your life, less reliance on pharmaceuticals, less reliance on folks like myself and the rehab world to try to help you get back to baseline function, decrease reliance on assistive devices, walkers, canes, things like that. You're just going to be more productive in general, right? You can get more things done if you do still happen to have a job later in life or need a job. You can function in that capacity more easily, and life's just going to get better for really every reason. So again, even if you're not in organized sports, you feel like, this isn't the activity for me, it's not relevant, or maybe it's honestly a self-conscious thing. I think a lot of people do feel that way, and I've talked to folks one-on-one of various ages, men, women, kind of the full gamut here that a lot of people just don't feel comfortable with jumping in general or moving quickly. They feel maybe embarrassed. They feel like they don't have the right form or it looks silly or looks funny. And I would say, try to put all that by the wayside. Most of us have this, I'm not a psychiatrist. I think the term is a spotlight effect where we feel, or limelight effect maybe, where you feel like everybody's looking at you. And this is so true in gym settings, where you walk in and you feel like immediately everybody's attention is on you. And it's really fallacious thinking because that could be further from the truth. Most people are locked in on themselves, and the things that you're doing or not doing probably are not going to garner much attention. And so I would encourage you to focus more on, again, your focus on yourself when you're at the gym, focus on your reason why you're there, or at home. You don't have to go to a gym. You can do it really anywhere. But you have to have a why. You have to make it very personable and tangible as to why you're there versus just I'm doing it because some dude on a YouTube video, that's me, told me to do it. So don't do it for me. I hope you do it, but don't do it because somebody just told you to do it. Do it because you have a very specific reason for doing it that's meaningful to you, that's going to keep you motivated and keep you want to continue to be healthier and really maximize the quality of your life, because that's how you're going to stick with this kind of training and you're going to see and feel the benefits much more clearly versus just doing it because of an abstract, encouragement that somebody gave you online. Um, we've gone through a couple different reasons here, and there's not a person in this country, I think, that can't understand or appreciate at least one of those. Most of us probably all three of those, right? We all know somebody who's fallen. We all have, um, some degree of healthcare cost, and we all have a life that we want to have highest quality, right? How can we not appreciate those factors? So again, do it for yourselves, do it for your family, do it for whoever or whatever helps you stay consistent with it. Don't be embarrassed or feel like it's something new that I'm not used to or I'm not quite sure how to integrate it. But do it because it's what's best for your quality of life and it's what's going to help you enjoy the most out of this one life that we're given.